Hello, welcome to Rita's Paper Motif. I'm Rita, and today I wanted to share with you the sketch I'm using for Saturday's sketch topic, and then I wanted to show you all the cards that were inspired by this sketch. So let's get going. While I'm switching out for the sketch, I just wanted to quickly remind you that you can find all the dimensions if you forget, or the instructions at ritaspapermotif.com. All right, so this is the sketch that I chose for this week. I chose it for a specific reason, and that is this sketch allows me to play with old product that maybe isn't in our catalog, that I don't usually use because it is old and retired. It may be new product that I just really want to play with and see what I can do with it, or to just get a feel for it. It may be some items from Paper Pumpkins that I haven't used up, because when I get my paper pumpkin, I like to make alternatives out of the materials inside the box. So it just could be a variety of things, and I will share with you where I got the items to make the cards, but also I will show you some alternatives. So let's get going on that. So this is the sketch. It's from Stampin Pretty. It's sketch number 66. Actually, Mary Fish is the one, it's my understanding she's the one that created this sketch. And I really like it because, like I said, it just allows for a lot of creativity. And so I decided, though, that the way I craft and the way I like to create my cards, I usually, not always, usually use a little bit of different measurements. So I'm going to show you what I use, and I'll show you what I made. So I changed up her sketch a little bit. Her sketch uses a more narrow base layer on the top of the card base, and then a layer on top of that first layer that is also more narrow. And then, of course, the circle I'm going to use, and the twine. So it's just the measurements of the layers here that I changed. And so I changed so that that bottom layer that sits on the front of my A2 size card, which typically an A2 is 5.5 by 4 1/4, and so that is, she used that too. But then that next layer, I like to have about a little bit of a margin, and so I used 5 1/4 by 4, and that's usually what I use for my base layers. And then on top of that, the next card layer, I call that card layer number 2, is usually 3 3/4 inch by 5 inch. And so I changed the sketch to accommodate what I normally craft with. And then, of course, the sentiment circle can be really pretty much any size, but for the most part, with the dimensions that I've just given you as the layers, I like to use about a 3.5 in diameter layering circle, and then on top of that, about a 2 1/4 inch. Now that does vary, and so that's just what I did this sketch in. And this is meant to signify a twine, and then there's the bow. I should have made it a little bit thinner. I realize that, but this is the dimension, and this is my changed dimensions to the sketch 66. So the original sketch is this, and this is my edited version. So if you missed these dimensions, you're more than welcome to go to ritaspapermotif.com, and there you can get those dimensions. Now let's start looking at some cards. So I want to bring out my first inspired card, and that is this card. So you'll see it's a top folding. It is still that A2 size card, and I used that first layer, card layer number 1 as I call it, which is the 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And this particular cardstock came from the Wildflower Birthday Designer Series paper. And then this is a layer of basic white, and that is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. So my thought was I wanted white, but I didn't want it to just be plain white, right? So I wanted to zhuzh it up a little, and I also wanted to play with some new product. So I pulled out my Pressed Flowers embossing folder. This comes in the Impression Blooms suite, and I just put my layer in the embossing folder, ran it through my die cutting machine, and here I have this beautiful layer with some definite texture. And then of course I just did the circle. Now I used my very favorite Spotlight Nature dies, and I just love them because they give the edge of the circle texture. There's a variety of sizes, and you could just have a scalloped edge, or you can have some with a little bit different of an edging. And so I used the second to the largest and cut this out of pumpkin pie, and then this is basic white, and it is the next in size. Now you'll see a lot of these in my cards because I just love that circle die set. All right, so there's card number 1. Here's card number 2, very much like card number 1. It has the pretty and pink layer number 1. It has another layer 2 of the Wildflower Birthday Specialty paper. And then there's that circle again, same size as this circle. And the string is there, as you can see it. It's double decker string. And then I wanted to embellish that circle. So I used the Impressions of Bloom dies. I did use that Thanks from the Impressions of Bloom. I like that font. But let's look at those dies. So the dies, so this particular die is a flower. Now you could stamp it and cut it out. These are 2-step stamps, or you can use the dies. And so this part of the die just makes the impression. So when you layer this die with this outline die, then you'll get that like embossed, and then it'll cut out the shape. So that's how that works. So it's like a 2-step die, I guess. And so I did the white, so you have 2 sizes. So I did the pretty and pink, and then the basic white, and then these little blooms come out of this die. Or you can even use this die and then just cut them apart, which is what I think I did. Yeah. And so that's really cute. I like that. And that is, and then of course I told you about the twine that comes from our Baker's Essential Twine. And then this bling is also from the suite. It's the Strawberry Slush and Pretty and Pink gems, and so that's what I embellished that card with. Now we have another card that is using that circle. I didn't use the twine on this card. Now remember, I told you that the sketches encourage me or inspire me to use from my stash and to use product from my craft space. So that's what I did with this one. So this is the foil. It comes, I'm going to show that to you. It is the brushed silver and gold foil, and so this is the gold foil. It comes in 12 by 12 sheets. You get 2 of each, 2 gold and 2 silver, and so that's what this is. And because the gold is very, you want to be frugal with it so you can extend it as far as you can. when I cut it out, I cut out the middle of that measurement because you're not going to see that cutout. This part is going to cover it up. And then I was able to use that for this bow. And also that's a 1/4 inch strip of the gold foil that goes across there instead of the twine. So let's talk about this bow. Now I told you that I'm bringing in old product for my craft room, and that's why it's so, why I always encourage you to build up your inventory. And obviously we can't have it all at once. It takes a while to build up your inventory. But there's some things that just because they're retired, perhaps you don't want to get rid of them. Perhaps you want to save them, like save for a rainy day, right? So this is something like that. This came from this die came from a word die set. I want to say it was clear back in 2020 or 2019. So the dies cut out a bunch of words like thank you and baby and welcome, happy birthday, sympathy. Well, they're kind of smaller, so I don't use them very often. And also, most of the time, 99% of the time, I want to use product that you can get a hold of so that we can share ideas and that we can grow from each other. And if you can't use it, then chances are it doesn't matter, right? But this is something I did pull from my stash, this die, and I do keep it on my desk with the used dies because sometimes I don't have string that matches my cards perfectly, but this does. And so I cut that out of the foil and used that. And then you see this circle. This is not die cut. This also comes from that Floral Impressions bloom set. This is called the foiled frames, and you can buy these separately. So the foiled framed ephemera. Boy, that's hard to say fast. So you'll see that you have the pentagon, you have the rectangle, oblongs, you have like an arch, and then there's circle. And so this is the one that I cut out, and I want to show you this part. So this is the part that I punched out, and then there's still another frame available to use, and then you could cut this out, which would be what you see right here. So you could just cut that out. So you can get a lot of use out of this pack. And now you can buy it individually or you can buy it in the suite. When you buy a product in a bundle, you usually save a percentage. Like the dies and stamps are usually 10%. When you buy in the suite, then you get it all together and you also save. So that's, and then this card, this layer right here is from an old paper pumpkin. Actually not very old, it was just this, it was June's paper pumpkin. And so this is part of a card base. I just cut it in half and then I cut it down to the 3 3/4 by 5. And this sentiment, the just for you, that's an old from, I don't think it's that old. I think it was last Christmas season in the seasonal catalog. We had an ephemera combo pack, and this was part of the sentiments. So I didn't use it, and I always keep those in a little, like one of those iris containers, because you never know when you're going to need a sentiment, and maybe you don't have just the right stamp for what you're wanting, but a lot of times you can use those sentiments. Or maybe you're kind of in a hurry, so you can use those too. So anyway, that's where this came from. So you see, we're still using circles. We're still using twine or a bow of some sort. And so that's following along with that sketch. Let's go to the next card. This is a top folding. This is kind of, I want to say, a very simple card. And this is using Misty of Moonlight as that base layer. This is cardstock. I didn't put a bow on there, but here's, in hindsight, what I think I would have liked to do is put some white twine behind this circle so that the twine sticks out. I think that would have been fun to do. And then this designer series paper is not designer series paper at all. It's part of an envelope that came from May's Paper Pumpkin. So the theme was Mountain Majesties, but these are the 3 different designs you could create, and then 3 cards from each design. So you see here's the envelopes that went with this design. Well, I used this design as a scrapbook page, part of a scrapbook page layout. So I had these envelopes left over. So I just cut one, and this is the front part of that, this is the front part of that envelope where you would address it. And then of course this is the fold over, and I've used the other part of it. So this is how I got this card, and I definitely think I will add a bow or something to it, some twine of some sort, just to give it some more texture because it seems awfully flat. But here is using that sketch. And you know, when you're experimenting and you're making your cards, sometimes you'll go back and change them a little bit, or sometimes they simply just do not work out. So let's keep looking at our card designs. Now here's another card that I made using that circle, and the circle is smaller than I have in my sketch, but that's okay. And I didn't want just a flat circle either. This is pecan pie, as is the card base. The first layer is Daffodil Delight, and then I'll show you this designer series paper, but this is pecan pie, and I cut that circle, and then I ran it through my embossing machine inside of my mini corrugated embossing folder. So it gave it that texture. And then this designer series paper is part of our Sweet Autumn's scrapbooking sticker sheet and designer series paper. I want to tell you that this is on the last chance list, so it's a good sale right now. When Close to My Heart closed, which was a scrapbooking company, Stampin' Up took their line of products and offered it to the people that were part of the Close to My Heart, so that they could continue preserving their memories. And so this is part, I think, of that one that came over, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken, it could be new. But now Stampin' Up is also creating and expanding their paper supply, and so that is catering more to those of us that scrapbook. And so this is on the last chance list, but as I said before, but it's worth your while. If you scrapbook, this is a sticker sheet, and you'll see that it has your title pages, it has strips, it has ephemera, it has all kinds of things that we would use on a fall layout. And then it comes with some designer series paper. Now, you know, I call this a designer series paper and sticker sheet because that's what it is. It's kind of an extension of a workshop kit because it's extra designer series paper. So you have 4 sheets of this. This is 2-sided, and this is the one I cut out, the side I cut out. You have 4 of this sheet, so it's like the brown plaid, and then the those are little trees, fall trees, and then you have the green. And so 4 sheets of each. So this is great for scrapbooking, and so I wanted to show that to you. And again, it is available to you, so if you go to the last chance list, you could still get it while it lasts. But I wanted to use some leaves because I was thinking, these are leaves, right? And so I thought, well, what I didn't have, I have some old leaf punches, but they're very, very small. They're smaller than this, so I really didn't want that. And so I thought, I know. And I looked through my stash, and I have an embossing folder and an old bundle. Let me grab that stamp set. An old bundle that goes with this embossing folder. So it's Changing Leaves. I believe this is about a year old. I used You Are Amazing right here. And if you, I'll open it up and show you. This is a hybrid embossing folder. We do have those in our catalog, and they work much the same way. So if you put this die, so here's a die, it's a group of leaves, and you put it in here, kind of a little bit kind of snaps in there, and then you can put your cardstock in. You just make your sandwich, put it through your embossing machine, and when you're finished, you have these this bunch of leaves, and not only are they cut, but they're embossed. And so I ran some white, basic white, in here with that die cut, and I got that big bunch, 3 big bunches, or these 2 bunches in this leaf, but they were really too big for this designer series paper. They pretty much drowned the designer series paper. So I cut them apart. And before I cut them apart, though I'm getting ahead of myself, I took my blending brushes and used Blackberry Bliss, Early Espresso, Daffodil Delight, Mossy Meadow, and Pumpkin Pie, and Cajun Craze, and I ink blended those leaves. And then I, of course, cut them apart and then stuck them behind this circle. Well, I still felt like they needed something else, and I really was thinking somewhere I'll look. I know I have a die that will cut out like the veins, and I can do that in gold. And then I thought, well, that might be too bold for those leaves. So then I kept thinking, what could I do? And then I remembered watching a video. This she does scrapbooking videos. Her name is Chelsea, and I cannot remember her last name. Chelsea, if you're watching, I am so sorry. But she showed a tip that is genius. So she used her stickles. I believe it was stickles that she used, but it wasn't, yeah, I'm sure it was. And she just took a couple of drops and put it on an acrylic block, took a brush and just brushed for her leaves. Well, it gives you that gold look, as you can see. Can you see it? And the great thing of it is it takes a bit to dry, but not a long time. I mean, by the time I was ready to put this card in an envelope, it was dry. But what I like about that is it's a good way to use the stickles, because I love stickles, but I haven't, stickles is glitter glue, in case you don't know, but I haven't used it because one time I was all into the stickles, and I made a couple of cards, and I just, did a little couple of dots, much like we use the adhesive backed gems. And I left it to dry, because obviously you need it to dry. This is glue. And so it was there for, I want to say it was there for a day drying. And then, I kind of put it to the side and finished some more crafting. And so lo and behold, something was on top of it. Wasn't heavy, maybe 2 or 3 pieces of cardstock. And then when I went to get it, the dots were all smushed. And I thought, oh my word. I am so glad that I didn't put it in an envelope and mail it, because whoever would have gotten the card would have gotten a card with smushed embellishments. And, it didn't look pretty when it was smushed, and I was like, I would have been embarrassed. Of course, the recipient probably never would have told me, but who knows? I might have ignorantly gone on doing that, right? So I just hadn't used my stickles for a while, and maybe I wasn't using them right either. So we're going to leave that as a margin of error. But I was really glad when Chelsea showed us how she uses her stickles sometimes, and is genius idea. So thank you, Chelsea. And then I did just use my twine. Instead of going across, I used it up and down. And then I used some of these gold back adhesive dots. These are also on the last chance list. When I looked at one time, they were $7.20, but I think the last time I looked, they're down to $6. So if this is something you think you're going to use, now might be a good time to stock up on them. But anyway, so there is that card. And you know, I thought, well, okay, so now you may not have this designer series paper, and when you go to make your purchase, because it's on the last chance list, it may not still be there. So what could you do? Well, you can do some different designer series paper if you want, but for the leaves, because I know you can't get that set anymore, I have a couple of options. We have our Circle of Season dies that is very current. This is an add-on for the paper pumpkins. So each quarter of the year, the paper pumpkins have some add-on dies that coordinate with those 3 paper pumpkins, right? So January, February, March had a set of dies. April, May, and June had a set of dies, and this set of dies coordinates with the July, August, and September paper pumpkin. And so I'm going to turn this card over so that I can show you. I love that hello die. So, you know, put some adhesive sheets on the back of cardstock, and you can die this hello. You can die cut this hello, and it's easy to stick on your cards, and it makes an impact. But the other thing I really wanted to show you is this looks like a strawberry thing, right? Because you're thinking about that. But if you take that apart and you add this to the top, now you have an acorn. So you could use these to make some acorns and put them on your fall, either your scrapbook page or your cards. So that is an option. And those could fit nicely on a circle as well. So I just want you to know that that's available, and also to not overlook those, that little package of dies, because they're at a good price point. I want to say they're $10, but please don't hold me to that. But I think they're about $10, and they're very useful. So, yep, this is that card. And then I have another card that is using the circle and the twine. And this is my head start on Christmas cards. So let's talk about this, because this is new product and it's available to you. And that is the designer series paper is new. These snow globes are new. And so let's talk about it. So there's the Rio Red bottom layer, Rio Red bottom circle and basic white, and some old twine. But this designer series paper is part of something that I think is just awesome. So the Stampin' Up! Now carries the scrapbook workshop kits. And when it says it's a workshop kit, it's very much related to the same idea as is with the paper pumpkins. So you'll get a sheet of directions and illustrations, and the contents of that bag that I just unloaded will enable you, if you follow their directions, will enable you to get not one, or create not one, not two, but 3 double-page scrapbook layouts. So certainly you can deviate from that. You certainly can, but what if you follow their cutting directions and their assembling directions, then you should be able to get those 3 double-page layouts. Most of us probably do deviate from it, and maybe you can get many more, and maybe you can add to it, whatever. But let's look at what's inside. So you get a sticker sheet that has your titles. It has some ephemera. It has the strips, and I love these strips because they're a good way to gap between maybe your designer series paper and your base page, or they're great to provide like a spot where your pictures can land on. But let's look at this. So you have a journaling section right here where you can journal on this and put it on your page. You have some strips that you can use. You have something that looks like a tag, and you have words, and so this is perfect, right? I love it. And here is the sheet that I cut from, or a sheet like what I cut from for my card. So on one side you have that beautiful stripe. On the other side you have the holly. So two sides. And then I love this. I actually bought 2 of these kits because I am definitely going to be using this for some of my Christmas cards. I just love it. So you have double sides, right? So much to create from. I don't want to show you this yet. Oh, I guess I do. So here are 2 sheets of that snow globe. And so I wanted to, you have the snowflakes on one side and the snow globes on the other. But I wanted to share with you that, you know, if you're card making, you can cut these, fussy cut these. You have 2 pages. And there's, what, 7 to a line. So 7 times 1, 2, 3, 35 cards out of each sheet. Wow. So there's that option, or you can use it for your scrapbooking. And then they give you some basic white. I think there's quite a few sheets of that. I'm going to put it on the bottom. Then you get some, this is Pull Party and Mossy Meadow. And these are white on the back side because they're your base pages. So when you're creating your scrapbooks, you have what we call a base layer, right? And everything is created off of this. So that's why they're white, because you really don't need any color. I mean, they're base. So that's what you start with. All right, and then we have something that is new to Stampin' Up, and that is our 2-tone cardstock. It comes in 12 by 12 sheets, and this happens to be Pull Party. So you have the darker shade and the lighter shade, and all you have to do to get that is just turn over the cardstock. So there's that, and then they give you some basic white, and also in here are some card, like some placement sheets where you can, and they're in here somewhere, where you can use as mats for your cards, or you can cut them, whatever works for you. But that all fits in this nice kit called Snow Days. So definitely you would want, if you're scrapbooking any winter pages, I suggest you take a good look at that kit. So anyway, that's where this card came from. This sentiment is another one, just like I mentioned in this card, that I saved in my sentiment stash. So, you know, sometimes our sentiments will come in black and white, sometimes they come in gold, but you know what? That gives a certain elegance to the card, and yeah, that's the card. So, all right. So now we the next cards I'm going to show you aren't necessarily using the circle, and they may not be using the bow. So let's look at this card. I call this card my wow card. And so this is a basic white card base. It opens like a book, but you can see the silver foil, and this is part of that gold and silver foil pack. And then layered on top of that is this beautiful paper. I want to show it to you. It's called the Naturally Gilded, just Naturally Gilded. So you have some silver, which is what I cut, 2 sheets of that. You have the gold, and then you have the copper. So 3 colors, 2 sheets of each, so 6 sheets. And then you can create your cards from that. But what I was playing with is sometimes, every once in a while, we need an anniversary card, or we need a wedding card, or, you know, we just want to use some bling, right? This would make a nice Christmas card too. So just depending on how you know, decorated it. But so I used that Naturally Gilded foil paper. And then again, I pulled in that I hope I don't overuse it. I don't think I can overuse it because I love it so much. I pulled in the Impressions of Bloom die sets again, and this it's not an oval, it's not an ellipse, whatever we want to call it, oblong, circle. Anyway, modern circle. I don't know. If you know the name, put it in the comment section. If you know what shape it is. I'm kind of rusty on my shapes, but this is what creates this silver border or silver frame, and then this is what creates that white part. So you can run them through your die machine, and you can you know, you'll have those two elements. So I ran those out of the foil though. So this is that gilded foil, and this is the silver and gold foil right here. I did put this on dimensions because I was thinking I wanted to decorate and stick it underneath, but really this takes up most of the card. This really does tone down all that silver shiny, but I didn't want to leave this just plain either, because that's why go through all the work to do something so beautiful and shiny and just leave it with a piece of white, right? So I wanted to decorate this white. I wanted it to be an anniversary, and so I wanted to think how I could use that. And so I did take the bow punch because I wanted something that could stick up in my card. And so this is what I was going to put underneath. So this is the bow punch. It sits on my desk all the time. It is retiring, so if you want it, you need to go get it. I don't know how much longer it'll last. I have no idea if it's even still there. It was there a day or two ago. But that's what I used, and I did this out of the silver. So when I cut this border here, it left in the middle part, and that's what I cut those out of. I had an old die set with hearts, but you'll see those all over. I mean, I was just seeing a brand new product that had hearts in it. So you definitely can just cut out your hearts, and that's what I did there out of the foil. And then I cut this ring. This is to indicate a wedding band, like for the groom. And I used this. And when I first used it, I was disappointed because I thought I had the middle that's still gold, right? But then these fit together like this, so you can get that ring and where the inside is out. So you'll get that. And so that's what I used for that. And then you see the diamond ring. Well, I'm going to show you how I got that. Now, remember I told you, so I'm just forewarning you because I didn't want you to be disappointed with me, because I did tell you, when I'm using these sketches to play with product, it can be old and new. So this is the Pocket Dot stamp set, and it did have the ring, and I believe this is retired. But, so I stamped the ring, and then I used this part in the middle. No, I'm sorry. This part in the middle. Well, first when I stamped it, then I embossed it in silver, and then I used this in the middle to get that hole there that I wanted. And so then that was the two rings. And you see this bling on here? Well, somewhere, somehow, for some previous project, I had this, it's called a bling sticker, and I do not know. I think I got it at Michael's, I'm not sure, but this is where I took it off of here. And I don't know anybody whose name starts with a U, so I am not quite sure. I think I just wanted the bling, but that's what I put right here. And then this happy anniversary comes from a very old stamp set, and I specifically looked for that. When I was doing this card, I specifically looked for that stamp set because of the font, and because I like how those two lines kind of draw attention. So anniversary is bigger, happy is smaller, but happy is not lost because it has those lines next to it. So this is an old stamp set. I even have one that's missing. And so I stamped that and embossed it in silver. And so that's how I got this card. So that's how I made this card. So you could even put some of that silver, this gilded silver in here, or just the plain silver to decorate it. But I definitely think that is, I like it. It's not too shiny for me, but it's pretty much close to, I don't think there's room for much more. And I did put the twine right up here with the rings. I was thinking of that saying tie the knot. And so I had tried to put them together and tie them in these rings together with the string, but it didn't work out. So this is my way to incorporate that twine. So let's put that to the side. Now I want to show you another card that is using not a circle, but a different way to house that sentiment. And I am using my beloved Texture Note dies. So I believe it's this size and this size. And you can see they're out of Cajun Craze and Basic Beige. And Basic Beige is kind of new to me. I haven't worked with it a lot, but I do like it. And then this circle is an old ephemera from at least a year ago from Paper Pumpkin. I do remember I have the stamp set, but I just like that grainy background. And then this designer series paper is from our Timeless Plaid that's still very available. And so, well, actually, let me just show you some of it. So it comes in different colors, different shades, kind of different. It just has a variety. It leaves a lot of room for you to play with different colors and to use it. So you can just see here. And then, of course, it's double-sided. So one side might be plaid, and then the other side will be somewhat different. So you can definitely take a look at that. But now I'm going to make a mess here. So let's put this away for now. But you definitely want to, or you can definitely get that same designer series paper if you want. It is available. And I do store my 6x6 paper in these containers. I have a video on how I make them. And I try to make them out of that cardboard that comes in the paper pack so that I always know what they are, because I am not good at remembering all those names. But anyway, so that's the Timeless Plaid that I used, and Basic Beige. And then I did put some Basic Beige on the inside with a strip of that Timeless Plaid. And there's my twine. And then I did use these metallic gems I want to show you to bling it out. So they come in copper, gold, and silver. And so that's what I just used there on that card. So I didn't use a circle. But I'm still following that sketch, and I'm still experimenting. So I want to show you another card I made that doesn't have a circle. Now this, again, is using up some of my stash. And I'm telling you this because I want you to be aware we should be having a celebration within the next year, I would say. And so what happens is when you make a qualifying purchase, then you get to choose free product, and that's what this is. This was some Toadstool designer series paper, and it coordinates with our terrific Toadstool stamp set. And there's a punch that goes along with the bundle, and so that's what it coordinated with. Well, this retired because it's celebration, but the punch and the stamp set are still very available. So I like, or my inspiration was that there was blooms in this paper. There was a snail, there's ladybugs, there's green foliage, and there's mushrooms. So when I grabbed this designer series paper, because I still have some left, I actually gave a couple as a gift to my customers. That's what I used for the bottom layer and the top layer, but I had some left over and that's what I used. So I used another piece of that same designer series paper for this layer, this base layer of an arch. And I want to show you what I used to get that. And that is from Everyday Arches. These are still available and they're wonderful. So the arches come, there's 10 to the die set. And you can choose whichever size you want. This can even make a shaped card or book. But they're great. So if you use like one size and then you maybe go down a size, so you don't use the next size, you use the one after that, and it'll create a layer right here, right? And so I didn't use these particular ones, but that's how I got that layer out of the designer series paper. And then I have a white arch that I built on, and then I used the hello stamp from here. And those blooms are from the Impressions of Bloom, of course. They're what's meant to be the middle of this flower I used for a bloom, and this stem stamp. And then these leaves are left over from a paper pumpkin project. And so that's kind of where my sentiment sits. And then this little snail came from a past paper pumpkin too. It had the tree rings in it. Anyway, this is part of it, and it was in my stash, and that's what I used. And then of course the twine. So there is that card, and it's inspired by this sketch, but not using the circle. And then this is my last card. So if you've made it this far with me, then I really want to encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and please follow me here on Facebook. So this is using some brand new product. This is the Early Espresso, which is not new, Basic White, which is not new. But this designer series paper is definitely new. And it's part of that suite again, the Blooms and Floral Impressions. And here is that sheet that I use. So I've been using this up like crazy. I love sunflowers, so this was right up my alley. So here's the front part and the back part. So that the back side of that sunflower is what is the base layer of this, where my sentiment sits, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. So you'll see all these sheets. This is gorgeous. 2 sheets of each. And I've used up some of them. So here's one that I've already used up. I think the last week's sketch, I think I used this. It had 3 strips on it, so I used that. Here's a lot of foliage. This would be great for scrapbooking right here. Here's that strawberry slush. I love it. Some more. And then the repeats. So this is available too. You can get it in the suite or you can get it individually, but that's what I used here. And now I told you we're not using a circle. You know what? We're using a tag. So there's some dies that I keep right on my desk because I use them all the time. This is one of them. So I cut the base tag out of this. This actually belonged to a Christmas die set, but I just save it. And then I have another set of dies that created one smaller, and they don't belong to the same die set. It's just that I've saved them because, you know, there are some shapes that you can use all the time. So this is a die instead of, a tag instead of a circle. And then I just matched up the holes and I put the twine through them. I was practicing with those stamps and dies with the Impression Blooms. And, you know, I told you I have been using it a lot. And so I was practicing with some crushed curry, and then I just cut this out. And then that's this flower. And then I had a leftover daisy from March's paper pumpkin that I used for that. And so that is where this came from. Now those gems that you see there are part of these. They're called faux glass gems. And that's what I used for this. So that is my last card I want to show you. And I really do want to thank you for sharing your time with me today. I want to put these all out so you can take another look and then know that you can come back and check out the video at any time, or go to ritaspapermotif.com, and there you can see all the measurements and all the cards again. So don't overlook those sketches, and when you're wanting to play with new product, or maybe your creativity is on slow-mo and you want to just jump start it, these are great. And also just to get a feel for putting things together, it's great too. Or if you're just starting out, they're great as well. So thank you so much for your time, and you have a great rest of your 4th holiday weekend, and we'll see you again next week. Bye now.